A new look today into how special counsel Robert Mueller may be trying to build a conspiracy case. Draft court filings obtained by CNN outline actions by Roger Stone, a Republican strategist and longtime Trump associate who once bragged about having back-channel connections to WikiLeaks. Let's bring in CNN's Sarah Murray, who's breaking the story for us. And Sarah, you just spoke with Jerome Corsi. He's accused of being Stone's middleman to WikiLeaks. He's the one with these new documents. What is he saying about this case that Mueller's trying to build against him?
That's right. He provided these documents to us, Jake. He's in some legal hot water. And, they outline the alleged lies Corsi told, but also Roger Stone's, sort of willingness, efforts to try to get these documents from WikiLeaks, at least from Robert Mueller's point of view. And one of these documents, it's actually an email on August 2nd. It's an email from Jerome Corsi to Roger Stone. And Corsi said, word is friend and embassy plans 2 more dumps, one shortly after I'm back, second in October. Impact planned to be very damaging, so you can see why Mueller's team believed that Corsi had intel, was sharing that with Stone. Corsi says he was never in touch with Assange. Now, there is a comment from Roger Stone. He insists he never got a heads up on any actual information and says, like every Politico and every political reporter in America, I was curious about what WikiLeaks had. So insisting he did nothing wrong, Jake.
And there's always been this question about why the WikiLeaks dump was on the same day, just minutes after the release of that Access Hollywood tape. But what did Corsi have to say? You asked him about it.
And one of the questions was whether it was somehow orchestrated. So Corsi said that he's actually provided information to the grand jury, and he said Roger Stone was in touch with him that day. Here's what he had to say about it.
We get to October 7, which was a very, very busy day for me here in New York. And Roger calls me 3 times. 3 times we have a discussion. Now, my recollection is that Roger is saying, this Billy Budd is going to be dropped, and Assange better get going. Why don't you get to your buddy Assange and tell him to start? Well, I didn't have any contact with Assange, but Roger, going back to July and August, may have led him on.
Now, Roger Stone insists that this is false. He said he didn't talk about this with Jerome Corsi. He said he had no heads up in the hours before this Access Hollywood Billy Bush tape was released. So it's a he said situation right now, Jake.
Between 2 gentlemen, both of whom have credibility issues, I think it's fair to say. Sarah Murray, thanks so much. Let's talk about this with our legal experts. Let's zero in on that email from August 2nd, 2016. Corsi allegedly wrote to Stone, quote, friend in embassy plans 2 more dumps of these WikiLeaks just 6 days earlier. Then candidate Trump said this.
If you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
And on that same day, according to Mueller's team, the same day Trump said that about Russia, if you're listening, Russians did attempt to hack Hillary Clinton's emails. Is this all starting to add up into a case that you see?
Of course it is. There's no real such thing as a coincidence. All of these things, either he is the most unlucky person or the most prescient person in the world, but it sounds more like the case that they're building against. And notice they have never spoken to Roger Stone, which frankly is key. I never spoke to the defendant in my cases or the target of my investigation. I spoke to people who could corroborate or could support the premises or give more evidence in some way, shape, or form. And so you're seeing the development of all these coincidences just simply smell funny to Mueller and his team, and they should. And of course, you have either the notion that people are extraordinarily smart or very, very dumb, thinking they could actually hide the evidence and the track. Who is the friend in the embassy? Who can we think about who's been in an embassy, an Ecuadorian embassy, for quite some time? Is it Julian Assange? This is not a coincidence. This is a case that's being built.
And when you're a prosecutor and you have a case where there are people who are known liars, like Jerome Corsi, who's behind many political smears, Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, lying about Obama's birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. Roger Stone, who takes flights of fancy himself. How do you assess who's telling the truth, or even whether either of them should be relied upon in a court of law?
Well, the thing that you try to do is you corroborate all the details and the facts around them. And so you know that they may not give you an accurate piece of information. And so you're going to go out and you're going to look for whether it's phone records or emails like you just read or other witnesses who you do trust. And you try to corroborate as much as you can, knowing that those 2 gentlemen, as you just said, are people who the government would be very, very distrustful. Like saying that they'd be distrustful of them I think is an understatement.
Well, they're both known as liars. But Corsi is providing documents, as you point out, and that seems significant.
It is, because of course, I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Even the most ardent liars can tell the truth in some capacity. The question for you trying to figure out the credibility assessment is, can I corroborate to show this is not just you going on that wings and flights of fancy, that you're actually trying to tell me something that's truthful? Now I have to verify. It's almost a trust or don't trust and verify anyway sort of scenario here. And so the corroboration by the actual documents is very useful. But mind you, also Roger Stone has his own corroboration here, his own documentation in the form of his statements. He certainly has tried to hold himself out to be somebody who knows a great deal about Julian Assange or WikiLeaks. And so you have the corroboration from Corsi's documentation, you have Roger Stone's own statements, and now you have the pulling back when you realize there may be an issue of trying to say, no, don't look behind that curtain. No one's falling for the Wizard of Oz Act, and I doubt that Mueller is.
And we should point out that CNN can't confirm the authenticity of these documents that Corsi shared, but they are consistent with other filings by the special counsel's office. Corsi said he plans to reject the plea deal that's been laid out, according to him. Could he be in trouble for sharing these documents with us?
I mean, as a rule, if they're his documents and he has access to them, he can share them. So a witness in a grand jury, he was clearly a witness in a grand jury if they're talking about a perjury charge, because he would have given testimony under oath. And so a witness in a grand jury can share information that they provided. What's interesting about the documents is that, if Robert Mueller goes and gets the documents, he's going to get every email for the last 3 months or whatever the period of time is. You have Jerome Corsi here choosing to hand you one email, right? And not all of them. And so I think we have to just also keep in mind that this may be very self-serving in some ways as well.
All right, thanks one and all. Appreciate the expert opinion.